The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss and Ambassador Taewon Kim stepped onto the Unity Nexus station. He carried a simple briefcase and wore his best diplomatic suit. Behind him, Captain Hyejin Park walked with confident strides, her military uniform crisp and clean. Dr. Bora Choi bounced on her feet, eyes wide with excitement as she looked around the alien station. Engineer Dae-hyun Lee brought up the rear, already studying the station's wall panels with professional interest. The welcome committee waited in the docking bay. Ambassador Vrenth stood at the front, his tall frame covered in sleek feathers that changed colors with his emotions. Right now they flickered between formal blue and nervous yellow. Security Chief Keltor loomed behind him, all muscle and armor, his four eyes tracking every movement the humans made. Scientist Prill hovered to the side, her thin arms clutching a datapad while her antenna twitched. "Welcome to Unity Nexus," Vrenth said, his translator device making his words sound smooth. "We are honored to meet the representatives of Earth." Taewon smiled and bowed slightly. "The honor is ours. Humanity has waited a long time to meet our galactic neighbors." They walked through the station's main corridor. The walls glowed with soft light, and the air smelled like flowers that Bora had never encountered before. She made mental notes about everything, her fingers itching to take samples. "Your journey was comfortable, I hope?" Vrenth asked, making polite conversation. "Very comfortable," Hyejin replied, "though our ship's radiation shielding acted up near the third moon. Nothing serious. We just rerouted through the solar flare zone instead." Vrenth's feathers flashed bright yellow. He stopped walking for a moment. "You traveled through a solar flare? It added maybe 2 hours to the trip," Taewon said calmly. "Better than waiting 3 days for repairs." Keltor's four eyes narrowed. He tapped something on his wrist device. Prill's antenna twitched faster. They reached the conference room, a grand space with a curved table and chairs designed for many different body types. The humans sat together on one side, the alien delegation spread out on the other, with more species joining them. There was Orthax, the council head, whose crystal body refracted light in strange patterns. There were others too, each more unique than the last. "Before we begin formal negotiations," Orthax said, his voice like chiming bells, "we must complete standard information exchange. Tell us about your homeworld." Bora leaned forward eagerly. "Earth is beautiful. We have vast oceans, huge mountains, deep forests and deserts. The variety is amazing." "Atmospheric composition?" Prill asked, her voice thin and reedy. "Mostly nitrogen and oxygen," Bora replied. "About 21% oxygen." Several aliens shifted in their seats. Vrenth's feathers went pale. 21%? Prill repeated. That's highly reactive. Don't things catch fire easily?" "Sometimes," Dae-hyun shrugged. "That's why we invented fire departments." "Your planet experiences combustion events regularly?" Keltor asked, his hand moving toward his weapon instinctively. "Well, yes," Taewon said, looking confused by the question. "Forest fires are natural, though humans cause some by accident too. We manage it." Vrenth made a note on his pad. His feathers now showed streaks of worried orange. "What about temperature ranges?" Orthax asked. "Depends on the region," Hyejin said. "The poles get down to -50 Celsius or lower. Deserts can hit 55 Celsius. Most humans live in areas between -30 and 45 Celsius. That's a range of 95 degrees. Prill gasped. "How do you survive such extremes?" Taewon looked thoughtful. "We wear different clothes. In cold places, we use heaters. In hot places, we use coolers. It's not that complicated." "I grew up in the mountains," Dae-hyun added. "Winter mornings were usually around -20. Summer afternoons got up to 35. You just dress for the weather." The aliens exchanged glances. Vrenth's feathers were now predominantly orange with yellow spots. "What about your planet's dangers?" Keltor asked. "Predators? Natural disasters?" "Oh, we have both," Bora said happily. "Earth has storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, and droughts. As for predators, we have bears, tigers, lions, sharks, crocodiles, venomous snakes, spiders, jellyfish, and—" "Please," Vrenth interrupted, his feathers flashing red. "You're saying your planet regularly experiences catastrophic geological events and has multiple apex predators?" "Well, yes," Taewon said slowly, "but humans are pretty good at avoiding them. We build our cities with earthquakes in mind. We have warning systems for storms, We don't usually bother the predators if they don't bother us. Usually, Keltor growled. Sometimes there are conflicts, Heejin admitted. But that's rare in modern times. Mostly we leave them alone. Mostly, Prill whispered, making frantic notes. Orthax's crystal body pulsed with different colors. How long is your species' average lifespan? Around 70 to 80 Earth years, Taewon replied. Some live to 100 or more. And your planet's day-night cycle? Orthax continued. 24 hours. Roughly 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. You experience complete darkness for half of every cycle? Vrenth asked, his voice rising slightly. That's what nighttime means, Daehyun said, looking puzzled. Do your planets not have night? Our homeworld's rotation is tidally locked, Vrenth explained, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid speech. We have a light side and a dark side, but both remain constant. The idea of regular repeating darkness is unsettling. Night is nice, though, Bora said. You can see the stars. It's cooler. Many creatures only come out at night. It's a whole different world. Creatures that only emerge in darkness, Prill muttered, her antenna drooping. Of course. What do humans do for recreation? Orthax asked, clearly trying to move to safer topics. Lots of things, Bora said. We swim, climb mountains, explore caves, jump out of aircraft with parachutes, dive deep underwater, race vehicles, play contact sports. Wait, Keltor interrupted. You voluntarily place yourselves in danger for entertainment. It's fun, Hyejin said. I went skydiving for my birthday last year. The adrenaline rush is incredible. Adrenaline? Prill asked weakly. It's a hormone our bodies produce when we're in danger, Bora explained. It makes us stronger and faster temporarily. Some humans actively seek out situations that trigger it, because the feeling is enjoyable. Vrenth's feathers had gone completely white. He looked at Keltor, then at Prill, then at Orthax. The other alien delegates were shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Let me understand this correctly, Orthax said slowly. Your species evolved on a death world with extreme temperatures, regular natural disasters, abundant predators, and cycles of complete darkness. You have internal chemical systems that activate during danger, and you deliberately seek out dangerous situations for pleasure. That's a pretty grim way to put it, Taewon said with a gentle smile, but technically accurate, I suppose. Earth made us tough, but it also made us curious and adaptable. We learned to work together, to solve problems, to take care of each other. Yes, our world was harsh, but it taught us strength and compassion. The room fell silent. The aliens stared at the humans. The humans smiled back, completely unaware of the existential crisis they had just triggered. Vrenth's feathers slowly shifted to a determined purple. I think, he said carefully, that we should take a short break. Perhaps the humans would like refreshments while we discuss preliminary matters. That would be lovely. Taewon agreed. As the humans were escorted to a waiting room, the alien delegates huddled together. Their voices rose in urgent whispers. Keltor's hand never left his weapon. Prill's antenna twitched so fast it became a blur. Vrenth's feathers cycled through every color in rapid succession. In the waiting room, Bora grinned at her companions. I think that went well, don't you? Daehyun nodded. They seem very interested in Earth. Hyejin smiled slightly. Very interested indeed. Taewon sipped the alien beverage they'd been offered. It tasted like mint and starlight. I wonder what they're discussing. If he could have heard the panicked conversation happening in the conference room, he might have been very surprised indeed. The medical bay of Unity Nexus looked nothing like hospitals on Earth. Everything glowed with soft colors, and the equipment floated in the air without visible support. The medical staff wore robes that changed patterns constantly, and they moved with careful, deliberate motions. Dr. Bora Choi practically ran into the room, her eyes taking in every detail. This is amazing. How does the gravity manipulation work? Are those scanner arrays biological or mechanical? Can I take readings? The head medical officer, a being named Thresh with 6 delicate limbs and eyes like deep pools, stepped back nervously. Please, Dr. Choi, we must conduct standard medical screenings for all new species. It is protocol. Of course. I volunteer to go first. Bora hopped onto the examination platform, still looking around with wonder. Taewon, Heejin, and Daehyun sat in the waiting area. Heejin flipped through a datapad with alien magazines, though she couldn't read most of them. Daehyun examined the room's lighting system. Taewon simply waited patiently, hands folded in his lap. Inside the examination room, Thresh activated the scanning equipment. Lights passed over Bora's body. Data streamed across holographic displays. Thresh's assistant, a small furry creature named Pip, watched the readings and made soft chirping sounds of distress. Your baseline temperature is 37 degrees Celsius? Thresh asked, his voice uncertain. Yes, that's normal for humans, Bora confirmed. Why, is that hot for most species? It's quite warm, Thresh admitted. Most species operate between 20 and 25 degrees. 37 is near the upper limit for biological function in most known life. Huh, Bora said. I never thought about it. We just call it body temperature. Thresh moved to the next scan. Your cardiovascular system shows a 4-chambered heart with remarkable pressure capacity. Your blood carries oxygen with iron-based molecules. Hemoglobin, yes, Bora nodded. Is that unusual? Iron is quite reactive, Pip chirped. Most species use copper-based or silicon-based oxygen carriers. They're more stable. Our blood also clots to seal wounds, Bora added helpfully, and we have white blood cells that attack foreign organisms. Oh, and we can increase our heart rate voluntarily through exercise or when we're scared. It's called a fight-or-flight response. Thresh's limbs trembled slightly. Your body has a militarized response to threats? I wouldn't call it militarized, Bora laughed. It's just biology. The scan moved deeper. Thresh's eyes widened and Pip made a sound like a strangled whistle. Dr. Choi, Thresh said slowly, your immune system appears to be extremely aggressive. I'm seeing multiple layers of defense mechanisms. Antibodies, phagocytes, specialized cells that destroy infected tissue, inflammatory responses, fever capabilities. That's standard, Bora said. Everyone has an immune system. Not like this, Pip whispered. This is a weapon system, Bora frowned. It's protection against disease. Earth has a lot of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Our bodies learn to fight back. You're in a constant state of warfare with microscopic organisms? Thresh asked. Well, yes, but we usually win, Bora said cheerfully, though sometimes we need help from medicine. Actually, speaking of which, do you want to see our vaccination records? Vaccination? Pip asked nervously. We inject ourselves with weakened versions of diseases, Bora explained. It trains our immune system to fight the real thing. I've had vaccines for measles, mumps, rubella, polio, tetanus, hepatitis, influenza, and a few others. Thresh sat down suddenly, his limbs folding under him. You deliberately introduce pathogens into your body? Weakened ones, yes. It's very safe. Well, mostly safe. The benefits outweigh the risks. Risks, Pip repeated faintly. The scan continued. The more Thresh discovered, the more distressed he became. Human bones were dense and strong, designed to withstand impact. Human muscles could grow stronger with use, actually tearing and rebuilding themselves. Human skin was layered and could repair itself from cuts, burns, and abrasions. Human pain tolerance was remarkably high. Have you ever been seriously injured? Thresh asked. I broke my arm when I was 12, Bora said. Fell out of a tree. They put it in a cast and it healed in about 6 weeks. Good as new. Oh, and I had my appendix removed when I was 20. That's an organ we don't really need anymore, but sometimes it gets infected and has to come out. You had an organ removed, Thresh said flatly. Minor surgery. I was back to work in 2 weeks. Pip made a decision and ran from the room. Thresh heard him calling for the medical supervisor. In the waiting area, Captain Heejin was called next. She walked into the examination room with military posture, taking in Thresh's clearly stressed state with a single glance. Everything all right, doctor? She asked. Please just stand on the platform, Thresh said tiredly. Heejin's scan revealed similar results to Bora's, but with even more efficient muscle development and bone density. Her body showed signs of regular training and conditioning. You maintain this level of physical capability voluntarily? Thresh asked. I exercise daily, Heejin confirmed. Running, weight training, combat practice. Standard military fitness, combat practice, Thresh echoed. You train to fight? Of course. I'm a captain. I need to be ready for any situation. Have you been in actual combat? A few times, Heejin said casually. Border disputes, pirate encounters, rescue operations. Once I completed a mission with 2 broken ribs, but that was an emergency situation. I don't recommend it. Thresh's 6 limbs were shaking now. You functioned with broken bones. It hurt a lot, Heejin admitted. But people needed help. You do what you have to do. When Daehyun came in for his scan, Thresh was barely holding himself together. The engineer's results showed scarring from burns, impact injuries. and what looked like electrical exposure. You've survived significant trauma, Thresh observed, pointing at the scan results. Comes with the job. Daehyun shrugged. Engineering can be dangerous. I've been burned by coolant, hit by falling equipment, shocked by power systems. Nothing too serious, though. Worst was when a pressure seal failed and I got some frostbite. Lost a fingernail, but it grew back. It grew back, Thresh repeated numbly. Fingernails do that. Takes a few months, but they regenerate. By the time Taewon entered for his examination, Thresh had been joined by 3 other medical officers and a psychological support specialist. They all watched the ambassador's scan with disturbed fascination. Your vital signs are remarkable for your age, one doctor noted. You show minimal degradation despite being in your 5th decade of life. I try to stay healthy, Taewon said modestly. Exercise, good diet, regular checkups. You've had surgery 3 times, another doctor observed. Heart procedure, joint replacement, and dental work. You survived all of them, yes? Taewon looked confused. That's what surgery is meant to do. Fix problems. You allowed others to cut into your body and alter your internal structure, the first doctor said. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds dramatic. Taewon chuckled. But yes, that's modern medicine. It's saved countless lives. The medical team huddled together, speaking in rapid, hushed tones. Pip had returned with a sedative dispenser, which several staff members were now using on each other. Finally, Thresh approached the waiting humans with a datapad. We have completed your examinations. All of you are cleared for station access. However, I must note several things in my report. Of course, Taewon nodded. We want to be cooperative. Your species shows remarkable resilience, Thresh continued. Your bodies are designed for survival in hostile conditions. Your immune systems are aggressive. Your pain tolerance is high. Your healing capabilities are advanced. You voluntarily undergo dangerous procedures and introduce pathogens. You continue functioning despite injury. You train yourselves for combat. He stopped, seeming to run out of words. We're tough, yes, Heejin agreed. Earth required it. Tough, Pip squeaked from behind a medical cart where he was hiding. They call this tough. Is there a problem? Bora asked, concerned now. Are we that different from other species? Thresh's limbs made a gesture that the translator interpreted as extremely. Dr. Choi, most spacefaring species evolved on what you would call gentle worlds. Stable temperatures, few predators, abundant resources. We are not designed for hardship. Our medical technology exists because our bodies are fragile. But you are designed for hardship. You are built to survive. That's good though, right? Daehyun asked. The medical staff exchanged glances. Thresh's voice was very quiet when he spoke. It depends on one's perspective. As the humans left the medical bay, chatting among themselves about the interesting experience, the medical staff remained. They would spend the next hour writing their reports, updating the human files, and trying to process what they had learned. Ambassador Vrenth would receive their report within the hour. When he read it, his feathers would turn white again, and he would need to sit down for a very long time. The diplomatic situation had just become much more complicated. The diplomatic dining hall had been carefully prepared. The Unity Nexus staff had spent hours researching human nutritional needs and preparing what they believed would be safe, acceptable food. The result was a spread of bland proteins, simple starches, and carefully neutral vegetables, all precisely temperature-controlled and completely free of any potentially harmful compounds. Ambassador Taewon smiled politely as he looked at the beige and white foods arranged on his plate. Thank you for accommodating our needs. This is very thoughtful. Beside him, Hyejin picked up her fork and tasted a piece of the protein. It had the texture and flavor of wet paper. She swallowed without changing expression. Military training had prepared her for worse. Bora chewed slowly, trying to find something nice to say. It's very safe tasting. Daehyun had already finished half his plate, eating with mechanical efficiency. Food was fuel, and he'd eaten much worse in engine rooms during long repairs. Across the table, Ambassador Vrenth and the alien delegation watched the humans carefully. Vrenth's feathers showed cautious green, hopeful that this meal would go smoothly. Security Chief Keltor sat rigid, still processing the medical reports he'd read that morning. Scientist Prill picked at her own food, her antenna constantly swiveling toward the humans. We hope the food is acceptable, Vrenth said. We analyzed your nutritional databases and consulted with xenobiologists. Everything here should be digestible and harmless to your biology. It's very considerate, Taiwan assured him, though I must admit it's a bit mild for human tastes. Mild is safe, Prill said quickly. We avoided anything that could potentially harm you. Speaking of food, Bora said, reaching into her bag, we brought some Earth snacks to share. A cultural exchange, the aliens tensed. Vrenth's feathers flickered yellow. That's not necessary, but Bora had already pulled out several containers. We have dried fruit, nuts, crackers, and some Korean snacks from home. Oh, and Heejin brought her favorite spicy seaweed. Spicy? Keltor asked, his 4 eyes narrowing. Just a little bit, Heejin said, opening the container. A faint spicy smell wafted out. Prill's antenna shot straight up. She grabbed her scanner and pointed it at the seaweed. The device immediately started beeping. That's capsaicin. That's a chemical irritant. That's classified as a defensive compound. It's just chili pepper flavoring, Heejin said, confused. It's not that spicy. You eat defensive compounds? Keltor growled, standing up. Humans enjoy spicy food, Taiwan explained calmly. The capsaicin creates a pleasant burning sensation. It's quite popular on Earth. Pleasant burning sensation, Vrenth repeated, his feathers now bright yellow with orange streaks. You enjoy pain in your food? It's not really pain, Bora tried to explain. It's more like excitement for your tongue. It triggers the same receptors, but in a controlled way. Some humans eat incredibly spicy foods. This is actually very mild. Prill was frantically scanning the other containers. The nuts contain trace amounts of cyanide compounds. The dried fruit has concentrated sugars that would cause hyperglycemic shock in most species. The crackers have salt levels that would be toxic to— Wait, Daehyun interrupted. Are you saying you can't eat any of this? Can't and wouldn't, Keltor said firmly, sitting back down but keeping his hand near his weapon. Those are survival rations at best and chemical weapons at worst. The humans looked at each other, then at their snacks, then back at the aliens. The cultural exchange was not going as planned. Maybe we should move on to the cultural presentation, Vrenth suggested desperately, his feathers cycling through several colors of distress. The dining hall lights dimmed, and a large holographic screen appeared. Taiwan stood and activated the presentation that Bora had prepared. We'd like to show you some aspects of human culture and daily life on Earth. The first image showed a beautiful mountain range at sunset. This is Mount Everest, the highest point on our planet. Thousands of humans have climbed it. Climbed? Prill asked. As in, scaled it physically? Yes, Bora said proudly. It takes weeks of preparation and several days of climbing. The air is very thin at the top, and temperatures drop to -40°C. About 4,000 people have reached the summit. The alien stared in horror. Vrenth made a choking sound. The next image showed a diver surrounded by sharks. This is recreational diving. Humans explore underwater environments for fun. Those are predators, Keltor observed, his voice tight. They rarely attack humans. Heejin said, we're not their preferred food. Most shark encounters are peaceful. Most, Prill whispered, making notes. The presentation continued. Each image seemed to disturb the aliens more than the last. Humans jumping from aircraft with parachutes, humans surfing massive waves, humans running with bulls, humans racing vehicles at high speeds, humans skiing down steep mountains, humans exploring deep caves. Do humans ever engage in safe activities? Vrenth asked weakly. Of course. Bora switched to a new image. Many humans enjoy reading, painting, music, gardening. Gardening? Prill interrupted. You cultivate plants intentionally? Yes, it's very relaxing, Taiwan said. I grow vegetables in my garden at home. I've seen your plant database, Prill said, her voice rising. 30% of Earth plants are toxic. 20% have physical defenses like thorns or irritating sap. You willingly interact with these organisms? The vegetables aren't toxic, Bora explained. We breed plants specifically for food. Though yes, some garden plants are poisonous. We just teach children not to eat them. You teach children, Keltor repeated slowly, to exist near poison. Before anyone could respond, an alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. A mechanical voice announced, Attention, minor malfunction in environmental systems, Section 7 corridor. No immediate danger. Maintenance responding. The alien delegation immediately stood and began moving toward the exits following emergency protocols. Vrenth's feathers went pale. Prill grabbed her equipment. Keltor started giving orders to security teams through his communicator. The humans looked at each other. Dae-hyun was already on his feet, heading toward the source of the alarm. That's Section 7. I saw those systems earlier. Let me check it. Wait, Vrenth called out. Maintenance is handling. But Dae-hyun was already gone, jogging down the corridor. Hyejin followed him, her military training kicking in. Taewon and Bora exchanged glances and went after them, leaving the aliens standing in confusion. Section 7 corridor showed signs of trouble. A wall panel had come loose and sparks were flying from exposed circuits. Coolant was dripping from a cracked pipe. The maintenance team stood at a safe distance, consulting their data pads and discussing proper protocols. Dae-hyun walked straight up to the problem, his eyes scanning the damage. "Hand me that toolkit," he said to a startled maintenance worker. "Sir, we must follow safety procedures," the worker began. "The coolant leak will hit the electrical system in about 3 minutes," Dae-hyun interrupted. "That'll cause a cascade failure. We need to stop it now." He grabbed the tools and went to work. His hands moved quickly, rerouting wires and sealing the coolant pipe with expert efficiency. Hyejin stood nearby, ready to assist. When a stuck panel wouldn't open, she simply pulled harder, the metal bending under her grip. "Captain, please be careful," a worker started to say. Hyejin opened the panel. "It's fine. Continue, Dae-hyun." 2 minutes later, the sparks stopped. Dae-hyun sealed the last connection and stepped back. "There. That should hold until you can do proper repairs." The maintenance team stared at him. One worker approached the panel cautiously, scanning it with his device. It's working." "You fixed it, temporary fix," Dae-hyun corrected. "You'll want to replace those circuits in that pipe section. The stress fractures could cause problems later." Hyejin was examining her hands. The coolant had splashed on her skin, leaving faint marks. She wiped it off with a cloth. "That stuff stings a bit. That coolant is caustic," a worker exclaimed. "You need medical attention." "It's just a mild irritant," Hyejin said. "I'll wash my hands thoroughly. It'll be fine." By now, the alien delegation had caught up. They stood at the end of the corridor, watching the humans with expressions of shock. Vrenth's feathers had gone completely white. Keltor's 4 eyes were wide. Prill was frantically updating her datapad. Vrenth started. "You walked into an active malfunction. You touched exposed systems. You made physical contact with caustic substances. You bypassed multiple safety protocols. You fixed the problem in under 3 minutes." "It wasn't that serious," Dae-hyun said, handing the tools back to the maintenance worker. "Just a loose connection and a cracked pipe. Basic repair work." "Basic," a maintenance worker repeated in awe. "He calls this basic." The group returned to the dining hall in silence. The presentation was forgotten. The food sat cold on the tables. Everyone took their seats again, but the atmosphere had completely changed. Keltor spoke first, his voice grave. "Your engineer performed a repair that should have required a specialized team, safety equipment, and at least an hour of careful work. He did it in minutes with minimal tools and no protection. Dae-hyun is very good at his job," Taewon said simply. "Your captain was exposed to caustic chemicals and treated it as a minor inconvenience," Prill added, her voice shaking. The alarm came at 3 in the morning, station time. Ambassador Taewon woke instantly, years of diplomatic service having trained him to be alert at odd hours. He heard running footsteps in the corridor outside his quarters. Warning lights flashed red through his window. The communicator on his wall crackled to life. "All personnel, containment breach in hazardous materials sector. Level 4 emergency protocols in effect. Evacuate surrounding sections immediately. This is not a drill." Taewon was dressed and out the door in 2 minutes. He found Hyejin already in the corridor, pulling on her uniform jacket. Bora stumbled out of her room, hair messy but eyes alert. Dae-hyun emerged last, carrying a tool belt he'd somehow found time to grab. "What's happening?" Bora asked. "Hazardous materials breach," Hyejin said, her military training making her voice calm and focused. "We should head to the evacuation points." They moved through the corridors following the emergency lights. Other residents of the station rushed past them, all heading away from one particular section. The air smelled wrong, chemical and sharp. They reached the main corridor intersection where Ambassador Vrenth and several other officials had gathered. Vrenth's feathers showed panicked red and yellow patterns. Keltor was organizing evacuation procedures, his 4 eyes checking displays on his wrist device. Prill was frantically scanning the air with multiple devices. Ambassador Kim, Vrenth said, relief visible in his posture. Thank goodness. We need to evacuate this entire section. There's been a containment failure in the chemical storage facility. The seals have broken and toxic compounds are spreading. What kind of compounds? Bora asked, immediately interested despite the danger. Prill's antenna twitched rapidly. Chlorine derivatives, acidic compounds, oxidizing agents. The mixture is corrosive and produces toxic gases, lethal to most oxygen-breathing species within minutes of exposure. How long until the emergency containment fields activate? Taewon asked. They can't, Keltor growled, frustration clear in his voice. The power coupling for that section failed. That's what caused the initial breach. We've sent for specialized equipment from the nearby station, but it will take 6 hours to arrive. By then, the chemicals will have spread through 3 more sectors. Can't someone just go in and fix the power coupling? Daehyun asked. Everyone turned to look at him. Vrenth's feathers went pale. Absolutely not. The exposure would be fatal. We've already lost contact with the maintenance team that was in that section when the breach occurred. We must assume they're dead, Keltor finished bluntly. A moment of heavy silence followed. Then Heejin spoke, her voice measured and professional. What if someone went in with proper protection? We don't have protection rated for that level of exposure, Vrenth said. Our hazard suits are designed for minor leaks, not direct immersion in a toxic environment. It would take hours to manufacture appropriate equipment. What about our suits? Heejin asked. The ones we wore for the spacewalk during our journey here. Taewon understood where she was going. Our equipment is designed for harsh environments. Earth-standard safety gear assumes extreme conditions. Your suits might resist the chemicals longer, Prill admitted, scanning data on her pad. But you would still be at severe risk. The exposure could kill you. Could, not would, Daehyun noted. He looked at Heejin, then at Taewon. Ambassador? Taewon took a deep breath. He thought about the maintenance team that might still be alive in there, suffocating or burning. He thought about the thousands of beings on the station who would be at risk if this spread. He thought about what humanity's first impression on the galactic stage would be if they stood by and did nothing. How long would the repair take? He asked. If you knew exactly what to do. Maybe 15 minutes, Keltor said. But I know exactly what to do, Daehyun interrupted. I studied those power systems. I can fix it. I'll go with him, Heejin said. It wasn't a question. Vrenth stepped forward, his feathers flashing with distress. Please, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. We can't ask you to risk your lives. You're not asking, Heejin said firmly. We're volunteering. But the danger, Vrenth started, is something we're trained to handle, Taewon said quietly. Captain, engineer, suit up. You have 15 minutes. Make every second count. The humans ran to retrieve their equipment. The aliens watched in stunned silence. Bora turned to Vrenth. Do you have medical supplies ready? They might need treatment when they return. When they return, Prill said weakly. You think they'll survive? They're tougher than you think, Bora said with confidence she didn't entirely feel. 10 minutes later, Hyejin and Daehyun stood at the entrance to the contaminated section. Their suits were bulky and reinforced, designed for spacewalks in hostile planetary environments. Through their helmet visors, their faces looked calm. 15 minutes, Hyejin said into her communicator. Stay on the channel. If we're not back in 20, seal the section. Captain, Taewon started. Those are my orders, Ambassador, Hyejin said. Her tone left no room for argument. The door opened. Chemical fog rolled out. The 2 humans walked in. The door sealed behind them. In the observation room, the aliens and the remaining humans watched through security cameras. The view was distorted by the chemical haze, but they could see 2 figures moving through the toxic environment with purposeful strides. There's the power coupling. Daehyun's voice came through the speakers. He coughed once, then his voice steadied. Worse than I thought. The main conduit is fried. I need to bypass it. How? Keltor asked, leaning toward the screen. Creatively, Daehyun replied. They watched as he worked, his hands moving through the toxic fog. Heejin stood nearby, providing light and keeping watch. Once, a piece of corroded metal fell near them. Hyejin caught it before it could damage Daehyun's equipment. Your suit integrity? Taewon asked. Holding, Heejin reported. Though I can smell the chemicals. Minor penetration manageable. She can smell them, Vrenth whispered to himself. She's being exposed and calls it manageable. Captain, check the far corner, Daehyun said. I hear something. Hyejin moved through the fog. The camera barely tracked her. Then her voice came through, urgent but controlled. I found the maintenance team. 3 workers. They're alive but unconscious. Suits are breached. Leave them, Keltor ordered. You can't save them and complete the repair. Not leaving anyone behind, Hyejin said. There was no anger in her voice, just absolute certainty. Captain, that's an order. Keltor started. I don't take orders from you, Hyejin interrupted. Daehyun, how much time do you need? 8 minutes for the full repair. Right, I'm moving the workers to the door. You keep working. They watched as Hyejin dragged the alien workers one by one through the toxic environment. Her suit showed visible damage now, the chemicals eating through the outer layers. She moved with mechanical efficiency, not wasting a single motion. At the power coupling, Daehyun worked steadily. His breathing was labored now, audible through the communicator. Almost there. Just need to reconnect. This last sparks flew. The lights in that section flickered, then stabilized. Daehyun's voice came through with satisfaction. Power coupling restored. Emergency containment should activate now. Immediately, multiple systems came online. Air scrubbers roared to life. Emergency barriers slid into place. The chemical fog began to clear. Both of you get out now, Taewon ordered. Hyejin had reached the door with the last worker. She hit the emergency release. The door opened, and station medical teams rushed in to grab the unconscious workers. Hyejin stumbled out, her suit smoking from chemical damage. Daehyun emerged a moment later, moving slowly. His suit was in worse condition, the material pitted and corroded. He pulled off his helmet and immediately doubled over, coughing. Bora and the medical team surrounded them. Get them to medical bay now. As the humans were rushed away, Vrenth stood frozen. The workers who had been rescued were being treated, their vital signs weak but present. The contaminated section was being cleared. The crisis was over. Keltor approached Vrenth, his 4 eyes unreadable. They walked into a lethal environment. They completed a complex repair under extreme conditions. They rescued 3 people. They survived exposure that should have killed them, and they did it in 12 minutes. Vrenth's feathers had gone completely gray, a color that indicated deep existential confusion. I know. We need to discuss what this means, Keltor said. I know, Vrenth repeated. Prill appeared beside them, her antenna drooping with exhaustion. I need to update my report on humans again. I'm running out of appropriate threat classification categories. They're not a threat, Vrenth said quietly. They're heroes. That's what makes this so difficult. The 3 aliens looked toward the medical bay where the humans were being treated. Around them, station personnel were talking in hushed, awed voices. The story was already spreading. The humans who had walked into death and walked back out. The humans who had saved lives at tremendous risk to their own. Vrenth made a decision. Call an emergency council session. We can't delay this anymore. The galactic community needs to know about humanity. All of it. In the medical bay, Hyejin was arguing with the doctors about being confined to a bed. Daehyun was asking questions about the station's medical equipment between coughs. The Grand Council chamber was unlike anything Taewon had seen before. The space seemed to stretch impossibly far in all directions, with hundreds of delegates from dozens of species arranged in ascending tiers. The architecture defied simple physics, and the air hummed with translated conversations in countless languages. Taewon stood at the center of the chamber floor. Behind him, Hyejin, Bora, and Daehyun waited in formal dress. All 4 humans wore simple Earth clothing rather than elaborate diplomatic robes. They had agreed it was important to present themselves honestly. Hyejin's arm was bandaged where the chemicals had burned through her suit. Daehyun still coughed occasionally, his lungs recovering from toxic exposure. Bora carried a data pad with her research. Taewon held nothing but his own calm confidence. Council head. Orthax's crystalline form refracted light across the chamber as he called the session to order. We gather today to address the matter of humanity's application to join the galactic community. Ambassador Taewon Kim of Earth has been invited to speak. The council will listen. Taewon stepped forward. He had given many speeches in his career, but none quite like this. He chose his words carefully, speaking from his heart. Honored delegates, he began, his voice steady and clear. I understand that humanity has caused some concern during our visit to Unity Nexus. We did not intend to frighten anyone. We simply acted as humans do. But I recognize now that what seems normal to us is alarming to many of you. So let me explain where we come from, and perhaps you will understand where we are going. The chamber fell silent. Every being present focused on the human ambassador. Earth is not a gentle world, Taiwan continued. For millions of years, it has tested every species that tried to survive on its surface. Extreme temperatures, violent storms, earthquakes and volcanoes, predators and diseases. Our planet did not nurture life gently. It forged life in fire and ice and struggle. He gestured to his companions. We evolved from hunters and gatherers who had to run from predators, then learned to hunt those same predators. We learned to endure cold that would freeze our bodies and heat that would burn our skin. We learned to heal from injuries that would kill most creatures. We learned to fight diseases with our own biology. Earth made us tough because anything less tough did not survive. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates looked uncomfortable. Others leaned forward with interest. But Earth taught us something else, Taiwan said, his voice growing warmer. It taught us to work together. No human survives alone. We formed families, tribes, communities, nations. We learned to share food, to care for the sick, to protect the weak. We learned compassion because in a harsh world, compassion was the difference between surviving and thriving. He paused, letting his words settle. Then he continued with quiet intensity. You saw Captain Hyojin and Engineer Daehyun walk into toxic chemicals to save 3 people they had never met. You wonder why they would do something so dangerous. The answer is simple. It is what humans do. When others need help, we help. When others are in danger, we act. Not because we are fearless. We feel fear just like you. But because we learned long ago that we survive together or not at all. Bora stepped forward, her enthusiasm shining through her formal posture. I would like to add something, if I may. She looked at Taiwan, who nodded. You have studied our biology and found it frightening. Our immune systems, our healing abilities, our tolerance for pain and poison. But please understand that these things also make us valuable partners. She activated her datapad, displaying holographic images. Earth has thousands of diseases. We have learned to fight them. We have medical knowledge that could help species facing plagues. Earth has toxic compounds. We have learned to handle them safely. We could help with chemical accidents or planetary cleanups. Earth has extreme environments. We have learned to survive them. We could assist with colonies on difficult worlds. We do not offer ourselves as warriors, Bora continued earnestly. We offer ourselves as survivors, as helpers, as friends who have learned hard lessons and want to share that knowledge. Keltor stood from his seat in the security section. His voice boomed across the chamber. Security Chief Keltor of Vaxid, I wish to speak. Orthax gestured permission. I have watched these humans closely, Keltor said. I have been suspicious. I have been afraid. Their capabilities are formidable. But I have also watched them choose kindness over violence, help over harm, sacrifice over safety. Yesterday, they saved 3 of our maintenance crew at great risk to themselves. They did not hesitate. They did not negotiate. They simply acted. I have served in military forces across 7 systems, and I have rarely seen such courage combined with such compassion. If humans can be our allies, we would be fools to reject them out of fear. Murmurs of agreement rippled through several sections. Frenth stood, his feathers showing a mixture of colors that indicated complex emotions. Ambassador Vrenth of Quilia, he announced. I also wish to speak. He looked directly at Taiwan. When humans first arrived, I was terrified. Everything about your species suggested danger. Death world origins, aggressive biology, high-risk tolerance. I spent days trying not to panic. His feathers shifted to honest blue. But I have learned something important. Dangerous and evil are not the same thing. Humans are dangerous, yes, but they are also kind. They are curious. They protect others instinctively. They face their fears and act anyway. They are perhaps the most frightening friends I could imagine having. And I would very much like to have them as friends rather than anything else. Applause rippled through sections of the chamber. Not all delegates joined, but many did. The sound was strange and varied, different species expressing approval in different ways. Scientist Prill stood, her thin frame trembling slightly. I have written 17 reports on human biology, psychology, and culture. Each one required significant updates as I learned more. Humans defy easy categorization. They are predators who protect the weak. They are survivors who help others survive. They are tough enough to endure anything but gentle enough to care deeply. I recommend provisional acceptance into the galactic community with continued study. We have much to learn from each other. Orthax's crystal body pulsed with light. The council has heard testimony. We will now discuss and vote. The next hour was intense. Delegates debated in clusters. Some species were enthusiastic about humanity's admission. Others remained cautious. The humans waited patiently, not trying to influence the process. Finally, Orthax called for order. The council has reached a decision. By a vote of 73 in favor, 22 opposed, and 12 abstaining, humanity is granted provisional membership in the galactic community. Relief and joy flooded through the human delegation. Bora grabbed Daehyun's hand. Heejin allowed herself a small smile. Taewon bowed deeply to the council. Provisional membership includes trading rights, access to galactic databases, and embassy privileges. Orthax continued. Full membership will be reconsidered in 5 Earth years, pending successful integration. Welcome to the galactic community, humanity. The chamber erupted in varied sounds of celebration and concern. The humans stood together, overwhelmed and grateful. After the session ended, Vrenth approached them in the corridor outside. His feathers showed warm green with hints of purple. Congratulations, Ambassador Kim, you spoke well. Thank you, Ambassador Vrenth, Taewon said. And thank you for your support. Your words carried weight. Vrenth's feathers flickered with embarrassment. I only spoke the truth. You are terrifying, but you are also admirable. I think we will have an interesting friendship. The best friendships often are interesting, Taewon agreed with a smile. Keltor joined them, his 4 eyes showing something that might have been respect. Captain Park, I have forwarded your tactical response data to several military academies. They want to study your crisis management techniques. Hyejin looked surprised. I just did what needed to be done. Exactly, Keltor said. That is what makes it remarkable. Prill approached Bora nervously. Dr. Choi, I was wondering, would you be willing to collaborate on a comparative biology project? I think our species could learn much from each other. Bora's face lit up with joy. I would love that. Oh, there's so much we could study together. Daehyun found himself surrounded by station engineers asking detailed questions about his repair techniques. He answered patiently, sharing knowledge freely. As the evening wore on, the humans found themselves at the center of curious, friendly crowds. The fear had not entirely disappeared, but it had been joined by respect, interest, and genuine warmth. Later, the 4 humans gathered in their quarters for a private celebration. Taewon raised a glass of Earth whiskey that Hyejin had smuggled aboard. To humanity's first steps into the stars. To new friends, Bora added. To successful missions, Hyejin contributed. To not dying from chemical exposure, Daehyun said dryly. They laughed and clinked their glasses together. What do you think happens next? Bora asked. Taewon looked out the window at the stars beyond the station. We go home. We report our success. We start building relationships, and we show the galaxy that humans can be trusted. Even though we're terrifying Deathworlders? Daehyun asked with a slight smile. Especially because of that, Taewon replied.